Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, August 13th. We do have a tropical storm now, Ernesto. We talked yesterday about some pretty rapid intensification likely for that tropical system. Indeed, it gravitated from a tropical depression to a tropical storm during the past 24 hours, and during the next 24 hours, it certainly should reach Category 1 hurricane status. It will pound away at Puerto Rico. Later tonight into the day on Wednesday, perhaps as a Category 1 hurricane. It will be a close call by the time it moves over Puerto Rico on Wednesday. And again, tropical storm conditions will begin there later on today into tonight. Then it starts to turn to the north and ultimately the north-northeast. In the northeast, quite likely will have an impact on Bermuda later on in the weekend. It looks like it will intensify between the time it passes through the Puerto Rico area and reaches Bermuda, perhaps a Category 2, maybe even a Category 3 hurricane. Again, still likely that it never reaches the U.S. East Coast. And we talked about some of the important players yesterday, a couple of different upper-level troughs that will kind of help to keep it out over the open waters of the northwestern Atlantic. Certainly can have a big impact ultimately on the Canadian maritime provinces, but not too likely in New England, although it is certainly something we'll continue to monitor. Here we are now, reaching the midpoint of August, and certainly the tropical scene in the Atlantic Basin is active and should remain active. This is Ernesto right here, and it's a pretty healthy looking tropical storm. Again, should undergo further intensification, not only in the short term over the next 24 hours or so, but really over the next 2 or 3 days. It will continue to intensify. And again, it may end up climbing all the way up to Category 3 status, which would make it a major hurricane. Let's clear the line right here and point this out. This is Puerto Rico, right in this area right here in the U.S. Virgin Islands, being impacted later today as well. Again, Puerto Rico, tropical storm conditions later on tonight into the day on Wednesday. Again, it could become a Category 1 hurricane by the time it reaches this part of the northern Caribbean. Then starts to turn to the north, and we'll look at the official track in a moment here. Turns to the north, and this is the area right in here where we'll really undergo some significant intensification. Again, from Cat 1 to Cat 2, maybe to Cat 3. This little speck right here is the island of Bermuda. Could make a direct impact there, awfully close. It's too early to say if it will indeed make a direct impact, but then likely continues on a track such as this, and then ultimately could end up directly impacting Nova Scotia, somewhere in the Canadian maritime province region. This is, of course, all residents along the New England coastline must continue to monitor this situation here. But right now, it looks like those troughs, a couple of them, will help to prevent it from ever making landfall in New England. Now, notice also a couple other waves out here over the central Atlantic, and one right here out over the far eastern Atlantic, just came off the west coast of Africa. So again, once Ernesto passes by, there certainly are a couple of other shots at some tropical storms in the Atlantic Basin. Well, here's the latest official positioning by NOAA's National Hurricane Center. Tropical storms, maximum sustained winds right now are 40 miles per hour. That will climb during the day today. U.S. Virgin Islands right in here. This is Puerto Rico right here. Again, directly impacted by Ernesto later on tonight into the day on Wednesday. Could become a hurricane by about the time it reaches this area. This is Bermuda right here. And it looks like this system will continue in this track, maybe cross right over Puerto Rico, then start to turn to the north and ultimately the northeast. And it could make a direct impact on Bermuda, perhaps as a Category 2 or even a Category 3 hurricane. Then likely may make a little jog to the north and west, but then likely moving in this fashion. Again, this is Nova Scotia right here, Newfoundland, and these Canadian maritime provinces absolutely have to stay on guard for this particular system. It likely stays to the east of New England, but something we'll closely monitor over the next several days. Again, there's a couple other waves out here in the Atlantic not being depicted here on this particular map. They indeed are something we'll monitor over the next, probably the next week to 2 weeks. Well, let's take a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly forecast maps by last night's 0Z GFS model run. Now, those of you who have been watching my videos for a while know that I get really concerned with respect to tropical systems and the East Coast whenever there's strong high pressure ridging over northern New England, or especially southeastern part of Canada this time of the year. For this system, we just don't have that. We have a couple of troughs that will play an important role. There is kind of a ridge that starts to set up over southeastern Canada, but it's really sandwiched in between two troughs, and fortunately that will likely help keep this system, Ernesto, from ever making it to the U.S. East Coast. Again, it's something we'll have to monitor over the next few days. We're starting off a lot of blue here across eastern Canada, New England, and all the way down into the mid-Atlantic region, represent lower heights than normal, and that is not your classic pattern for pulling this system or allowing this system to head towards the East Coast. Now we'll move farther out into time. Here we go by Wednesday night and then Thursday, and it tends to get absorbed or lifted northward by this initial trough. Notice there's a second trough out here starting to intensify as it moves into the northern plains. We'll go out a little farther in time. That's Thursday, and here we go by Friday morning. Two troughs that are important. Again, there is sign of a ridge here over interior southeastern Canada, but one trough right here and another trough right here. This little speck right here, that's the island of Bermuda. Here's the reflection of Ernesto at 500 millibar level. Again, this is the area right in here where rapid intensification will bring this system, I believe, to Cat 2 status, maybe Cat 3 status. We'll go out a little farther in time, and this initial trough tends to help to lift the system to the north here and away from the U.S. East Coast. This has a very, very close call, maybe even a direct impact on Bermuda. And once that trough lifts out, there is a little bit of a ridge here, and that's a little bit of a concern. But there's a second very impressive digging trough here over the eastern Ohio Valley by the early part of the upcoming weekend, and that again will really minimize the chances of this Ernesto system ever making it to the U.S. East Coast. It just kind of helps to push it off to the north. Now, if you're in the Canadian Maritime provinces, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, absolutely pay close attention to the movement of this system over the next several days, because it will become a strong hurricane, perhaps even a major hurricane out over the western part of the Atlantic Ocean. Now, let's continue to move forward here. This is now the early part of next week, and somewhat surprising for the month of August. We kind of have an omega blocking type of pattern here with an upper level low situated off the west coast and one over the mid-Atlantic region, and this really represents some beautiful air masses that will move from Canada into the northeastern part of the nation. We're experiencing one of those right now with spectacular temperatures for this time of year in the mid-Atlantic, in the northeast U.S. And again, these upper level troughs not only result in some nice temperatures for the mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S., but they help to prevent Ernesto certainly from ever making landfall along the U.S. East Coast. We'll go a little bit farther in time, and here we are a week from right now, still have this trough situated a week from right now, next Tuesday the 20th, right along the eastern seaboard. And there goes Ernesto way up into the North Atlantic. This is Greenland right here. Well, I talked about those pleasant temperatures in the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. Here we have, starting off the day here on Tuesday with cooler than normal conditions, well above normal, up across the central part of Canada. We will have a continuation of some cooler than normal or nearly normal air masses dropping from Canada into the U.S. over the next couple of weeks. And really, the remainder of the month of August looks pretty darn pleasant for the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. A lot of nearly normal temperatures, even slightly below normal temperatures for the next couple of weeks. Doesn't look like there will be any sustained extreme heat throughout much of the eastern U.S. over the next couple of weeks. Now, let's move forward here quickly, and we have this cooler than normal air mass still hanging around by Thursday and then into Friday. And we'll see here in a moment, there's yet another cooler than normal air mass that pushes its way eastward across the Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic during the early part of the upcoming weekend. Now, it does get hot, especially that across the central and southern plains here, the Rocky Mountain states by the upcoming weekend. It's certainly, while the eastern U.S. should not suffer through sustained extreme heat over the next couple of weeks, there will be some hot weather for sure out across the middle of the nation. Here we go now into Sunday, and here we go. This wide area, the whites here represent nearly normal temperatures, and the blues below normal temperatures at the 850 millibar level, and really from the northern plains across the Great Lakes, Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, very nice temperatures indeed. And here we go into the early part of next week. And we'll just quickly move forward here at this time, just to show as we go later into the month of August, there will be additional cooler than normal air masses. Here's some hot weather out across the central part of the nation, the middle of next week we're looking at right now. But here comes another. There will be some hot weather, but it will be rather brief across the northeastern states. And here we go by the end of next week. Look at that, a widespread cooler than normal air mass dropping from Canada into the Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. This is about 10 days away right now, all the way out to Sunday, August 25th. And again, some hot weather will certainly exist, but it's kind of confined to the middle of the nation, maybe the western part of the nation for the most part during the next couple of weeks. Well, let's walk through the surface forecast maps, again using the conventional version of the GFS from 0Z last night. Here is Ernesto right here. Now notice the millibar, 1007 as we begin the day here on Tuesday, August the 13th. This is Puerto Rico right here, U.S. Virgin Islands right there, and it intensifies to 1,002 millibars, dropped 5 millibars in just that 6-hour period. And then it becomes 998 right over Puerto Rico by late tonight. So it's an intensifying storm. Again, could become Category 1 hurricane status right around this time, late tonight, early tomorrow. And then it continues to intensify, 996, 993, as it takes that turn. And it goes all the way down to 979 by 48 hours from now. So this is pretty significant intensification over the next 48 hours. Bermuda situated right there, and it starts that turn to the north, 970 millibar, and that's a perhaps Category 2, maybe even Category 3 type of hurricane as it approaches Bermuda on the end of the work week here, let's say Friday night time frame. It could indeed be a Cat 2 or Cat 3 hurricane at this particular time. But notice out here over the Great Lakes, this is associated with that upper level trough, that important upper level trough that again will inhibit the chances of Ernesto ever making it to the U.S. East Coast, producing some rainfall over the Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic region, an unsettled weekend coming to the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, Great Lakes, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, threat of showers and thunderstorms. And here we go. Ernesto continues to move to the north. It does take kind of a turn to the north-northwest here, but again, New England likely to be spared thanks to that second incoming trough. And this continues to move to the north. And again, the Canadian maritime provinces should stay on guard here for the next several days, because this could be a strong storm system by the time it gets up there later on in the upcoming weekend. I mean, hurricanes play an important role in the overall balance of things in nature by first distributing heat from the tropics to the higher latitudes. It's really the most important role of hurricanes on a global basis. They distribute heat from the tropics to the higher latitudes, also distribute moisture. This takes a lot of tropical moisture. In this particular case, rides all the way up into the Canadian Maritime Province, and sometimes these tropical systems end up producing snow over Greenland, and that's a possibility with this particular system. But we'll go out even farther in time, and here's Ernesto way up there with a lot of tropical moisture. A week from right now, this is still Ernesto bringing a lot of tropical moisture up to the higher latitudes. And again, this is Greenland. If it comes a little bit closer, it could actually end up helping to produce some snowfall for southern Greenland. Right now, it stays a little bit to its south, but it's of interest that a tropical system ends up going way up there into the northern latitudes, and that's about a week away from right now. So that's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.